It's my pleasure to welcome you here to this great festival. It was meant to be. And it's prophetic, I guess, that it's the weekend of Memorial Day. Memorial Day weekend. Because we're here to remember a man who unfortunately has been long forgotten by most people. He died, I think, June 21st, 1849. That's nearly 166 years ago. And I'd suggest that we have here in this assembled group the most people that's visited his gravesite since he's returned here in 1829. I'm guessing, but I think I'm pretty close to the figures. And it's really a shame because he was a very important man in his time. His name was Sampson Sanders. He was probably the wealthiest man in Cabell County. He owned hundreds of acres of land throughout the county, operated two very prosperous farms, built a major sawmill and flour mill on the Wyandotte River, probably at the time the largest in the county. He built a blacksmith shop, a mercantile store. He even had his own distillery. That sounds interesting to me. And was a man of consequence within the county. He served on the board of trustees of the Wyandotte Navigation Company that opened up the Wyandotte River to trade and timber rafting. He was a member of the chartering group, trustee of the chartering of the town of Barbersville, and he was at one time a justice of the peace, what they called back then gentlemen justices. So he was a man of property and a man of social responsibility who seemed to be liked by his fellow Cabell Countyans. One last thing about him that is very important to us and why we're here is also he held 51 slaves. 51 slaves at the time of his death was a huge number. If you know anything about American history, you know that there were approximately 350,000 slave owners in the entire South. And of that huge number, less than 2% held more than 50 slaves. Less than 2% of all slaves. And he was one of them. By the way, we had another one in the county, but I won't mention him. And what he did on his death, in his will, he freed these people. He manumitted them. And not only did he free them, he provided money from his will to allow them to purchase equipment, supplies, take care of their transportation, and to purchase lands in their new home in Cass County, Michigan. He also sent 3 lawyers with him to see to it that they would be unmolested on their trip, and also help them acquire their lands in Cass County. The the value of his action, if you use again tables and economics of the time, would be worth, in today's value, slaves were worth approximately $1 million. And the amount of money that he provided for them to get there and buy their lands would add an additional $470,000 to $500,000. So it was a princely sum in his day and a princely sum to me in our day. But what's more important is not that so much as the other. And that was the great prize, the great gift, freedom to 51 people. And that's greater than all gold and silver you could possibly ever want to get. And we should honor that man, and we should know him. And that's why we're gathered here today. And what I'd like to do is to recognize some of the people who are responsible for us having this beautiful resurrection of his gravesite. I think some of their names are on this historical marker, some aren't. But I want to thank them publicly on behalf of all of us and all people interested in history and justice, First, I'd like to recognize Ken and Pam Klingler. Where is she? There she is. Right in front, I can't see you. They're the property owners, and they graciously allowed folks to come up here and clean.
In 1803, Sampson Sanders was only 16, and the family had rushed to Kanawha County to settle a problem his father acquired. And part of that was a murder of a white man by a black man. But the man was judged innocent because he was not a slave. And in that same period of time, though, the word didn't get here because it took a long time to get anything here from Virginia. So the man was brutally beaten. Sampson Sanders more than likely witnessed it because he would have been with his father. And a year later, his father was dead. And now suddenly Sampson Sanders was a slave owner. But he'd spent his first 16 years of his life crossing the frontier and living with these people. They were his friends. They weren't property. So Dr. Gould and I both agree with reading the information left behind that the man never considered them anything other than friends. And one reason he acquired all this land was to be able to manumit them because the Virginia laws required him to take care of them. 51 people is a lot of people to take care of. And he did the only thing he could. He gave them property or money to buy property and the chance to use that freedom. We're going to dedicate a wreath here and Paul's flowers that came from Michigan in honor of his life and the deeds that he created.
Thank you. Now, Paul, would you please place your flowers? Well, this concludes our modest ceremony. We're so glad that everybody could be with us. And remember, everybody's invited to lunch. So we'll all reconvene back down at Marshall. We'll be in the Schotter room in the student center. And that's a chance we'll get to have to talk to Paul and Sarah some.